This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Didn't remember seeing him here. And here comes the Big Show. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about, boy, he looks different these days. Totally different look and presentation there for Big Show. But we were talking earlier about how the ratings were starting to be affected. I want to give some context to that. When you go back to the night after WrestleMania 17, the show gets a 5.7. The next week, it's a 5.4. The next week, a 5.1. The following week, another 5.1. Then 4.98. Then 4.6. Then 4.5. And here we are, the night after a pay-per-view, 4.2. The bloom is off the rose. We're on the downhill slope. Could you feel it back then?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Again, the company was built around so much around Rock and Austin. Rock was gone doing movies and pursuing that dream. And it was a smart decision for Dwayne. And then Austin making that turn. So you lose two baby faces of it. Of immortal proportions, Conrad. They're no longer available on that babyface side. And as we have discussed here, we didn't have anybody ready for Steve as a babyface or a heel. So anyway, we had to hit the reset button.
Yeah.
And we needed to get somebody hot on the other side of the aisle, which with all those baby faces that we have. So, but you know, thinking, well, we'll just put the old rocket ship under their ass and it's all automatic and all that stuff. Well, come on, man. It's not automatic, and everybody ain't got it. We didn't have any more Austins and Rock baby faces on the roster. They weren't existing at that point. And I dare to say that maybe since then, no one has approached their status as a baby face in WWE.
Not a maybe, it's a guarantee. Nobody has reached their status, and we're seeing two very capable performers right now. They're working a hardcore match. Of course, Rhyno's our hardcore champion, and Big Show's challenging for it. He's got on knee pads and elbow pads and wrist tape. It's a unique look for Big Show here in this era.
Not a bad look, I don't think. You know, the key thing about Big Show, Paul White, is the fact that, you know, he looked great in his gear when he was in, you know, when he had not had any excess or too much excess poundage.
Yeah.
You know, he's still a freak of nature. I mean, my God, I'm sure for some people, it's the largest human being they've ever seen.
Oh, certainly. I mean, I'll never forget that first time I saw him at a live show. I was lucky enough to have pretty good seats, so I was near ringside. And as he walked by, I mean, you could show a movie on his back. It's a huge human being, and
Yeah.
I mean, just shaking hands with him years later, it's a whole nother scope of whoa. I guess we're technically the same species, but this is a monster of a human being.
Yes, and you know, it's just hard to believe that he was a former, you know, his claim to fame athletically before his pro wrestling days was in basketball.
Yeah.
I know he played at Northern Oklahoma Junior College in Tonkawa.
Tonkawa.
Yeah, and they sent him there. He was going to go to Wichita State. Wichita State at that era was pretty damn good. But I don't know if it was grades or his fundamental skills or whatever it may be. But they sent him to Tonkawa because Tonkawa is just south of Wichita. But I think the desire to make money, the fact that he needed money, he exited basketball not too long after that. He didn't get to Wichita State, as far as I know.
Let's talk about what Meltzer wrote here. He says, less than 2 months after the biggest show in the history of the industry, the entire wrestling industry seemed to hit a panic. The Monday night audience for wrestling has declined to a scary degree, coming off the end of Nitro and folding of WCW down to a 4.2 rating on May 21st for the best Raw in a long time. This number was equivalent to the audience the show used to draw a few times a year. It aired from 11p to 1a on a tennis or dog show night. The WWF not only has lost all the former Nitro audience, as well as having dropped about 16% of its own core audience over a 7-week period. House show business, on a strong run of the past few years, have started showing more signs of weakening than in any period in the last 5 years. Moreover, never in recent years has so much been said about the boring state of the WWF, with stagnation setting in. The similarities with WCW were just too scary in an industry lacking no major league alternative. Is the Observer something that you read at the office, or did you read it at all back in 2001?
It came to my home, so I would read it at home. But to say I read it religiously from cover to cover would be a lie, and I don't lie to our audience. I'd read what's applicable to us or the lead news story, something along those lines. But what happened in other areas that did not affect me and my work, I did probably peruse very often. But yeah, I got it at home, and that's where that's where I read it.
I'm curious because you're head of talent relations here. You're definitely a VIP in the organization, and you're intricately aware of the finances of the company. Now it's a publicly traded company, and there's just a lot of moving parts. But I'm just curious, when you read something like this in the Observer, where it seems to spell doom and gloom. Oh my gosh, choke slam through a trash can. That ought to do it. Rhyno has lost. Big Show is your winner. Are you nervous? Do you just pay it no mind? Do you think, well, he don't know what I know? What I'm seeing, we're off the track here.
Um, well, Dave didn't break any new news.
Right.
It was, in fact, we weren't aware where the trends were. So I would say all he did was enlighten his audience to what he felt was a news story, and it was. But we were aware of that. We were aware of all that stuff with and the trends and all that. He just reiterated what we already knew. And you and I have talked about this ad nauseum. If you have the attractions that people want to see, they will watch, they will attend, they will participate. If you don't, they won't. Simple as that. And we just didn't have what they wanted to see. They did not want to.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grillin' JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm good, Conrad. How are you doing? Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate you being with us. I think we're going to have a fun show today. It's been Conrad's business on the ad-free network is going nuts. And in your show with your acquisition of Jeff Jarrett, I thought was a nice move.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, nice move. He's got plenty of stories, plenty of experiences to tell. I saw you guys started off with and aptly named it how he screwed Vince.
We did. Yeah. I felt like that was probably the most controversial topic, maybe the episode that people wanted to hear the most. And what was funny is, even though, Jeff described you as the voice of wrestling and told the whole story about how you guys worked together on the whole Fight and New Japan deal, and y'all were cool, the fans were still like, hey, is there heat? We got to have JR fire back. And I'm like, no, there's no heat, brother. What are you talking about?
How many years ago was that, Conrad? Really? It was like what?
Over 20 years ago. Yeah.
Come on. Is there heat? That's the goddamn internet for you.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.